curious. Looking for the cash.
You're going to be hired to do that. Welcome to the Curiosity Cache, Scarred Lands 5e live play stream. I am your Dungeon Master, Jeremy Hochhalter, and before we dive into our first episode, we will do some introductions. So on my screen, I have Katie as first. So Katie, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Great. Hello, I'm Katie. What should I say with an introduction other than my name?
What do you do, Katie?
I largely do freelance for various RPGs, but I also am in the wedding industry. So I do a lot of weddings and I deal with a lot of brides. And that's pretty much my life. I really enjoy Scarred Lands, so I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Have you created the stats for the Bridezilla yet?
It's usually the brides are pretty chill. It's the people surrounding the brides that get really crazy after this. We had this past year what I like to call Vodka Dad, who had a full-on meltdown when the guests literally drank all the vodka in that bar, and then he had a meltdown that there wasn't more vodka, mostly because he was drunk. But
it happens.
Yeah.
All right, so moving down the screen is Noah.
All right. I'm Noah Grant. I do a lot of writing of various things for DM's Guild and adventures for various conventions. I use both he, him, and they, them pronouns. And we're not doing anything with character introductions yet, right? So.
Correct. We'll come back around to that.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's Chaz next on the screen.
Hi, so I am Chaz Calendar. I research storytelling, music, and like interactive narratives. So that includes things like video games and games like Dungeons and Dragons. It is super fun. I am in that like incredible time in a master's student's life when they're writing a thesis. So I only regret it like 60% of the time. But then I remember like what I'm researching, and I'm like, I have no reason to do that.
So like only when you're awake during the times you should be sleeping, thinking about your thesis. Okay, so that's the only time you regret it. Okay.
Every third dream.
Right.
Also like dreaming about the thesis that I'm not doing, and it gets
Awesome. And down on the bottom is John. Go for it, John.
I've been a nerd since '96. Been playing D&D since 2nd edition. I like Dungeons and Dragons, and that's my first foray into Scarred Lands, and super excited about a new setting. Make whiskey, and this is going to be super fun.
Nice. And I am Jeremy Hochhalter. I am the DM for what will hopefully be an entertaining campaign. I publish RPG supplements on DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG. I've done work for Onyx Path and Kobold Press. Lots of fun there. My own business is Wanderers Haven Publications. You can find me online at WH Pubs for most places, or WHPublications.com. And I just got this message that my camera thing is going to quit in 10 minutes. That's always awesome. It's going to be a really short game. So if we stop in 10 minutes and restart, we'll be right back. So before that happens, let's do character.
8 minutes now.
Right. So let's do character intros. Katie, tell us about Pratchya.
Okay. Pratchya, she is an orc. She grew up very well adjusted with her parents who were merchants. Her parents decided to apprentice her to a shopkeep who owns the Curiosity Cache. And she's basically not super happy with the position. She wanted something else for her life. She didn't really want to get in the merchant business. Ergo, she's not very good at the business. However, she is now basically taken over the shop because the owner, the person she's apprenticed to, is currently MIA, and she's not doing a very good job with it. And things have spun out to the fact that maybe the shop might be in debt at this point. Maybe Pratchya might be in debt at this point. And so she's looking for anybody to help her with this particular problem.
Nice.
So anything else? Good?
I think that's pretty solid. Noah, tell us about Braca.
All right. Braca Blue is an ironbred, one of the races from the Scarred Lands with the head of a horse, the hooves of a horse, or else roughly humanoid. So he stands on 2 feet and punches with 2 fists. And he also likes to be a tinkerer, and that's part of how he came to the Curiosity Cache after deciding that he was going to leave home and he's going to make it on his own. I'm going to make it on my own. I'm going to make it on my own. I'm going to fix things. I'm going to fix things. I'm going to make these wonderful inventions and sell them.
How'd that work out?
Some of the pieces of junk probably around the shop because his ability to come up with ideas and execute them, not so good.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chaz, tell us about Freed. You're muted.
Let's try that again.
Yay!
We're back.
Yes.
So Freed is an Eshik, one of the races from the Scarred Races player options. Essentially like a kind of fey ice creature that looks like a gnome. It is so fun. Essentially, he grew up with like his mom and dad. His dad was this like kind of Eshik gnomish tinkerer, and his mom was this like very like adventurous like warrior. And so he grew up kind of like learning both sides of that. However, very early on in life, he saw this like weird discoloration or mark on his arm, and his parents said like, you should probably leave and figure out what that is and or take care of it. And so he went off on his own to kind of like make it in the world and figure out what's going on with this like random mark in his person. Made his way to the city and to the Curiosity Cache, where they need tinkerers and someone who is, capable in a fight if it so just comes to that.
Nice. John, what about Decim?
I think my Zoom has frozen here when you added the unlimited minutes. Is it still streaming from my end?
You're not moving.
I'm frozen.
But we
Hooray,
hear you.
Ireland. You can still hear me though, yeah?
Yes.
Let me try.
Okay, cool. Desmond has a fairly lengthy backstory. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's all tragic and ridiculous. But Desmond was is a Slytherin.
And Slytherins are what?
I think we lost him.
Uh-oh.
Far, far to the east.
Oh, there
Oh,
you
wait, there we
are.
go.
Oh,
There you go.
oh, no. Now it's black. Well, gray, kind of. Host has asked you to start your video. Start my video. Let's try this again.
Hooray. Technology.
Hey, okay, cool. He is in town largely by accident, perhaps by fate. It doesn't really matter. It's fine. He has happened across a large cache of creams and salves and other things. Don't ask where he got them. And he is currently at the Curiosity Cache selling them, as he has them in some seemingly infinite amount available, and is more than happy to provide his expertise as a identifier of alchemical substances and arcane liquids. He seems to be quite useful in that regard.
Nice. Well, speaking of fate, it's funny you say that because Enkili, who is the goddess or god of fate, depending on what form she, him is taking at the time. And you just happen to find yourself here in Shelzar, and Keely is like the patron deity of Shelzar. And as you've wandered the streets, you've seen multiple shrines to her, and a lot of people are making offerings to her and such. So you feel like maybe it is fate that brought you here, little rat man. So, speaking of Shelzar, for those of you who aren't Scarred Lands aficionados, which I am not, so if I get this wrong, I apologize. Shelzar is known as the Jewel of the South. It's also called the City of Sins by those who don't appreciate a lot of the activity that takes place within the city. It is said that the city is half as old as Skarn itself, and there's actually some truth to that. It's one of the oldest cities still standing, but yet there were empires before it, and so there are ruins in the sands around it. In fact, there are rumors that there are ruins off the coast that it sits on as well. And the whole area that surrounds it is desert and wastelands that have spread since the Divine War, which was about 150 years ago, where the gods threw down the Titans. And in the Scarlands, the gods and the Titans aren't ideas. They actually exist, and beyond existing metaphysically in another realm, they come to the world and touch it and mess things up, or fix things in some case. And so Shelzar has weathered a lot of that. I think that's the only thing I wanted to tell you now, so I don't ruin any other spoilers. But we're going to start with Freed. So Freed, as has been the case lately, you wake up down on the docks, and the sun's just peeking over the horizon, so it's still fairly dark out. But the heat is already just baking the city, and the humidity, which is a strange concept to you coming from far to the north and being made of ice yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of a strange slickness that just appears on your skin, on your being, and you wake up and you just feel very uncomfortable, and you have this strange pain in your arm, and you're trying to remember how you got here, and that pain just is throbbing, and you can't figure out what to call it. It's like this strange sensation you've never felt before. And as you look at your arm and you see that through your somewhat transparent flesh, you can see like crystals of ice that aren't usually there forming, and you think this is what it must feel like to be cold. Because you don't really feel cold most of the time. You feel warm, but you've never felt cold before, even like when you're up in the middle of the frozen wastelands. That's not cold to you, that's home. And this is just this strange, weird sensation.
This is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of this. So, question. Am I clothed now?
So, being someone who is not really a fan of clothing,
Right.
not really. You do have this like potato sack that kind of smells gross and moldy, that was thrown over you, but you kind of like, as you sat up, it kind of fell off. So you're just sitting there in the buff. This potato sack is somewhat covering you, and people are just walking by. Some of them look at you. Being an Eshik in a desert city is weird, so a lot of them stare longer than normal, than they would look at someone else, but no one is like, witch, burn it, or anything weird like that.
So I guess I'm going to take my like rotten potato sack thing and kind of wrap up to, I figured that's what people do when they're cold, like step in it or like roll around it. I'm still like figuring out that part.
Yeah. As you're wrapping the potato sack around you, you notice that weird mark in your arm has gotten darker. Like it's definitely turning like it's taking on a darker hue, and so it's more noticeable through the ice of your flesh. And it seems to, rather than like pulsing like a light would pulse outward, it's like ebbing. So it's like pulling light into it. And you just get this, like, if your skin could crawl, it would do so. What do you do?
I feel so. I'm just gonna take my like potato sack thing, and I'm going to, I guess, try to make my way home. I'm a little confused, and I think I need some people around me to figure out like what's happening, because this whole like cold nonsense makes no sense, and I don't know what this thing is, but I think I kind of want to hide it so I don't have to deal with that right now. One thing at a time. So yeah, we're gonna head home as like bundled up as we can. Are there more potato sacks around that I could like double up the bundling?
Yeah, they're not all the potato sacks, but there's like random cloths. Plus, like, this city is pretty well known for having a range of class that is so vast. Like there are so many just destitute poor people, and there are so many. Well, there's a large number of like wealthy merchants and such. So you're in an area that is fairly destitute, and just looking around, like you just find like random things laying around that maybe somebody came down here and like got rid of or whatever. But it's not weird to find just trash that you could pick up and cover yourself with.
Okay, yes, I'll like make some kind of like trash duvet. And then like, I want to look at the thing on my arm, and just kind of like, because it's changing now. This is a recent change.
Yeah, it's definitely like you've noticed it like growing darker over the last few weeks since you've been in Shelzar, but you still don't know what it means, and you're not really sure what's causing it as far as the change in it. But you do know that the last several nights you've woken up down on the dock, or nearby. A couple of times you were on the rocky beach that kind of sits down near that dock.
Okay, so then bundle up with the trash, and then make my way home to see which one of my friends are like dragging me down to the beach. Because like the first time was funny, but this is getting ridiculous. So yeah, let's head on back. Do I have my key on me? I guess I don't have pockets.
That's right. Yeah, no key.
Crap. Okay, let's just figure it out.
So as you walk down the streets, the city's waking up and merchants are coming out. The dock area, there's a lot of sailors and that are coming out of taverns and inns down there, obviously hungover or doing the walk of shame back to their ships. And most of the time, people will glance at you. Some people are, will point at you and talk and everything, but you never really feel threatened.
Right.
But as you are getting closer, you've gone through a lot of the city. It's about 1.5 miles to walk to get from the dock to the shop. As you're getting into the merchant quarter, you notice a group of armed men that are walking down the street towards you, and you recognize the symbol of the black dragon on their livery.
Right.
And so they're from the Calastian hegemony. They usually don't have much of a presence here, but recently the High Minister Fratrelli extended a welcome for them to open an embassy here, which is like unheard of. The Shelzari have never had good relations with the Calastians, and since that proclamation was made, you've seen more of these groups that are moving around, and they move like they have a purpose, almost like it's their city, which is strange. And whenever you've seen Calastians in the city before this, they still move with like confidence, but not so much purpose. And now they seem a little more intimidating, and they kind of glare at you as you're walking by, and you definitely feel that open hostility towards you. But they pass you by, and you see them talking to each other and kind of glancing back at you, but they don't hassle you or anything. And you end up making it back to the shop, and the doors are open, and you notice a ladder is sitting outside, and the sign for the shop, which is this big wood sign that in golden letters says the curiosity cache, is actually laying against the building, and you think probably that someone has once again stolen the sign and then returned it. It's oh, there she goes. All right, so we have to come up with this. What is going to be when my dog barks? I think we should do a roll, and if it's odd, a good thing will happen. If it's even, something bad will happen. Yeah.
Okay.
So for this week, or at least this first time this week, Katie, just roll any of the dice in the.
Just roll any of the
Yeah.
dice. Let's do a d20. Yeah.
15, so something
15.
bad happens. Something bad. I wasn't expecting it this soon. Freed, as you walk in, you look over and you see one of those Calastians has followed you, and he actually meets up with a group of younger Shelzari men, and one of them, you don't know who he is, but you know you've seen him before, and he's chatting with the Calastian, and he looks over and points in your direction. You're not sure if it's at you or the shop, but they definitely look like they're conspiring about something.
Right.
What do you do?
They're like down the street, right? They're like.
Yeah, they're about half a block away.
That's not far. Okay, so I'm gonna walk in.
Okay.
First of all.
So as you walk in over here, I'm just going to move your token here on Astral. You're confronted with this very large, strange, fiery, demonic statue in the middle of the room that wasn't there last night when you went to bed. You notice Decim and Pratchya and Braca are standing around it, and they look frustrated. And Pratchya, what's happened is the last of the adventurers that Belky, who's the owner of the store, sent out in order to find an item for a client, those adventurers came back and they delivered that item. And when they took it out of this small bag, it was only about this tall. It was like definitely you could hold it with your hands and everything. And they set it down on the ground and they said, that you paid them, and they took their money and essentially left quickly. And then the statue went and is now this several-ton monstrosity just sitting in the middle of the shop. You quickly called, or sent a runner off to get the client to which it was to be sold to.
Yeah.
That person's name is, sorry, hang on one sec. Nazmi Jabber. He's actually been a long time customer of the shop, and so when Belky took this order, he actually didn't require him to pay ahead. We'll get into that a little bit here shortly, but you're definitely frustrated because the runner came back and said Nazmi is not willing to take the item anymore, and therefore you're not going to get paid for it. So the three of you are standing around. You can hear, and having been in the cellar before, you know that there is a basement, and essentially it's natural rock below. And whoever built over it essentially laid down these timbers and then put these stone tiles over it. And so now there's all of this weight sitting on the floor, and you can just hear those timbers below
like
creaking. And you're trying to figure out what to do with this gigantic statue that's in the middle of the shop.
Oh my gosh.
And then Freed walks in.
I like practical jokes as much as the next guy. I'm pretty sure, but we've gone above and beyond. Like someone's taken down to the docks. You took down our sign again. What the hell is that?
This isn't a joke. This is a problem. This is a big problem. A big problem if you hadn't noticed it.
I do notice a big part. What?
Also, why are you wearing a potato sack?
Because whoever took me down there didn't bring me my clothes. And why would you take me down so far? Like,
What? Wait, hold on. What are you talking about?
someone, for some reason, I've been waking up by the docks. Like, the first time it was like kind of har, but like, it's happened at least like 3 times this week. And it's not just this week. So I don't know.
Is it the same place, the docks, every time?
Yeah. No, but it's like, like it was the docks, I think. Like the first time this week it was by the beach or something. But it's. Mm-hmm.
Did you drink last night? How much did you drink last night?
Last night I did, but the first time this week I did not. So we can't blame that.
Did you remember to drink enough water afterwards?
Did you have food?
It's a hot climate.
The point is that we can't. This has happened enough that it's not just the drink. We have.
Well, it's not a drink.
It is not a
It would
drink.
probably be several.
Right. Still, I'm waking up by the water almost every day, and it's a long way to get back, and I have to wear this like cloak because I'm cold for some reason. I'm cold. I don't understand what's happening. What?
You're cold.
Yeah, like I don't understand what's happening. I don't know who or what's doing what, but like I have to wear this to kind of like get warm, and I have to go upstairs to put on like actual clothes. So when by the way, I probably should tell you. Do you know those guys outside in the armor who like don't belong here?
The
Colastians!
guy.
Yeah.
Those.
Yeah. I think they were looking at me weird.
Yeah, those guys. So they also
The Black Dragon guys?
Yes, them.
Okay, yeah.
They looked at me weird too, which is we're getting used to that. But there's one of them outside right now who is kind of like talking to someone and pointing in our direction. So I don't know if this is a hey, we should go over there and help them out kind of thing, or a hey, we should go over there and further mess with them kind of thing.
So I have the first, again, have you had enough water? Is there water around that I can give you? Because I'm assuming that you've been in the heat so long that you're having the dehydration shakes.
But I should be. Wait, I have a game question. Do I still have my ring on me?
You do.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. I should be fine with the heat, and I'm going to show off the fancy ring. Like, the heat should not be a problem.
But you're cold.
That is a problem.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could get cold.
And here's the thing, I'm not exactly sure it is cold,
Okay.
but from what I've been told, it sounds like what cold is.
Okay. It's not drunk, is it?
I am like 87% sure it's not drunk.
Okay. I just, I want to make sure you wound up at the beach. You were drinking, as you said.
This time, yes.
This time, yes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna tie myself to my bed tonight and like hope I like wake up there. But we should definitely handle one of these other things that's happening.
Yeah.
Fairly soon.
Well, if they come in the shop, we'll deal with it then. We gotta figure out this giant monstrosity of a statue right now, because otherwise this... Oh, go ahead.
How did it fit in the door?
It was small before. It was like that big before, and now it's this big, because
So I've got an idea.
Because that's our luck.
Maybe there's something on this thing where if I press it a certain way, it'll get small again. Can I look for a button or something like that?
Sure. You want to do a perception check? Go for it.
All right.
Feel free, go ahead, just don't break anything more.
This is a question.
That I'm looking with my eyes, not with my hands this time. We've established this.
So looking at it, you don't notice any strange indentations that don't match the carving itself. There's some, around the base, there are some sigils that you don't recognize, mainly because they're so worn, but none of those look like a contraption or some kind of device that's part of it, or that's separate than the statue.
All right.
Okay.
Is it time to start looking with my hands?
Feels old or stone-like. We'll go with stone-like because I don't know how stone feels old. Retcon. Yeah, the stone feels cold and rough, as though if it was at one time a smooth statue, it's definitely become pitted and marked. There's a little bit of lichen that's grown on it, and you're not really sure where they found it, but obviously lichen doesn't really grow in the desert, so it's probably in a cave somewhere.
I figure unless someone else has some ideas, I'll just start poking around a bit, looking for the off switch.
Okay. So while he does that, what are the rest of you doing?
I'm gonna let him do his business, and then because I'm the tallest, I'm going to go outside and rehang that sign.
Gotcha. So as you walk outside, you just kind of glance around to see if the Calastian is out there, and you don't see anyone in their armor or anything. But you do see a group of men. They're around your age, and there's one of them that you feel fairly confident you've seen before, but you just can't place his face. But you feel like familiar to him somehow.
Okay.
And they're kind of eyeing the shop and watching you, and they're definitely talking. And they walk over, and across the street from the cache is a coffee shop. Actually, it is called something. Sorry. The Plentiful Cup. And they walk over and they sit down like that's where they were heading. But it's weird that they were looking at you and pointing you out. And they just keep looking over at you fairly consistently.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to hang the sign. I assume I can reach, mostly.
Yeah, so you have a ladder out there that you had set out earlier. Okay. So reaching up, you hang it.
Yep. And then I'm kind of going to stare at them because maybe they were the ones that took down my sign. So I'm giving the long, hard look before I slowly get back down.
Okay.
Go back in the shop.
So as you're giving them the stink eye and you step down off the ladder, you almost run into this man he would be very handsome for a human if it wasn't for this weird kind of grimacy sneer that he always has on his face. And every time you see him, he has his facial hair's all oiled, but it's to the point that you swear it's going to start dripping, and his hair is kind of the same way.
Like that, yeah.
This is Kavi Yurst, and
great.
He is not a friend of yours, and you are not a fan of his. And he kind of steps back and looks at you. So, has Belky come back yet?
He hasn't, but I do hear that he's going to be back very soon.
And he walks in as you're talking. So those of you
Really
inside.
straining, and then follow him back in the shop.
Okay. So those of you inside, this man comes walking in, and you've all seen him around the shop before. You know that he does you have scales that weigh Shelzari gold compared to gold from other cities because their coinage is often not worth as much. So there are scales in the shop that you have to have calibrated on a regular basis, and so he comes in to check that. But you also know that he works for the tax office. And he walks in and he's looking around. Not much inventory left.
Oh, well, what we do have is really large and really great.
He disdainfully
I
looks at
see.
the statue. Yes, I see that.
It's very impressive. It was just brought in the other day. Probably going to have to get a high price for it.
So Pratchya, as you're standing there and you're talking to him, you realize that you haven't seen Kavi since you purchased this large stock of Dr. Zagini's ointments and remedies, which sits against the left wall there on the screen. Since purchasing that stuff, you've had several very irate customers come back that have bought it, and essentially they come back and they say either it doesn't work, or where did this rash come from, who's going to take care of this, and you've definitely learned that a lot of the stuff that you purchased to resell as hopefully a way to keep the store open longer isn't really the best product. In fact, the only product that has been selling well is Dr. Zagini's Ultimate Skin Darkening Stopper. So essentially sunblock.
Okay.
And it works surprisingly well, and you've noticed several harem workers that come in and buy it because they want to maintain this like creamy complexion instead of getting tanned by the sun. But otherwise, most everything on there is a farce or gives you some kind of rash. And in fact, that bottle over there, and I'm gonna let Decim answer what this bottle is, this red bottle. You know this red bottle gives people rashes, and you're like, if I can get Kavi to buy this, that would make my day.
So, Kavi, if you want, hold on, where's Decim? Yeah?
Yeah.
Is Decim upstairs?
Decim is standing next to the rack of ointments on the map.
Okay. All right. Actually, Kavi, if you want, Decim here can tell you all about how great these products are, especially this one. I pick up the red bottle and kind of put it in Decim's hands.
Real quick question. What language have we all been speaking here?
So when he's speaking to Pratchya, he's speaking in Ledian.
Lydian?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. You sir, you seem to have a issue with heights.
He scowls at you.
Your feet seem to be somewhat stunted in a very stunted sort of way, and perhaps if you would want to impress the ladies, you would certainly apply this 3 times a day to increase your height and also your allure to all of the ladies who would be doing the lady things with you.
You know what ladies do.
What ladies do to other human people.
Are you proficient in persuasion?
No.
I feel like either persuasion or performance. You pick the role and go with that.
I find my sheet. Where is it? I did have. Oh wait, what? Oh, Do you go under edit character spacebar, or how do you?
Spacebar, yeah. Go spacebar.
Okay.
Bloop. Brings up the
New
thing.
program.
Yay!
Right.
And then you should be able to just click on the
Persuasion.
skill. 18. Nice.
Hey, I'll take it.
So he steps forward, he's like glaring down at you, and he's like, I was the tallest of my siblings. But he takes the bottle from you anyway for some reason, and he's kind of eyeing it. He opens
you
the
are
lid.
tall, but you could be even taller. I am very
you are
small, which makes you look tall by comparison. But if you were to rub this on 3 times a day, you would also be so much taller. And the ladies would swoon. They'll look to the rest of the party. Swoon?
He's sniffing it. What's in it? It smells delightful.
Yes, perfume from the ancient east of the monsters, glandular liquids of the sky.
Yes. How much is it?
50.
What?
Yes. 50.
I will give you 25 for it.
34.
30.
32. I have children, you see. So many children that need mouths. Children with no mouths who must be fed, and that requires magic, which requires
Yes,
money.
fine. 32. And he'll pull
32.
out some coins and hand them to you.
I will look for approval.
I'm going to nod, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, Pratchya,
Like,
inside, you're not really sure what pure bliss feels like, but you're pretty sure this is close. Because Kavi has just been making your life unpleasant as long as Belky has been gone, and he was making Belky feel bad for years before that you've been working for Belky, but he has definitely not been fun since Belky's been gone.
Tax. Oh, there's also tax surcharge plus bonus. You should pay the tax on this for extra stamina.
He just kind of glares at you with that one, and he sniffs and he says, "Well, tax day is coming soon. I will be back to collect." And he leaves. But as he leaves, he pauses at the door and he kind of like looks at it and everything. And Pratchya, for the life of you, you feel like he's measuring the doorway or something. Like he's kind of sizing up the shop as he's been talking for some reason. And then he leaves.
I'm gonna passive aggressively slam the door behind him.
And yeah, so there are these big double doors that swing out, so you have to go out and essentially like swoosh one close, and then walk over, and you realize
absolutely going through that. Yep.
you like pick up the ladder because you realize it's still out there. You slam the other one closed, and as the doors close, like the curiosity cache remains surprisingly cool. And as the door shuts, it just like cools off even that much more, and you feel just so comfortable, even though you're irritated.
Yeah.
And you just kind of always feel this weird sense of like coolness and comfort that you don't sense anywhere else in the city. So it takes a little bit of the stress off of you, but then you look at the giant statue.
Yeah.
A closed door can always be a door that opens again.
What does that even mean?
A closed door can always be a door that can open again.
That's fine. That's perfect. That's yeah.
I don't ask anymore.
I mean, he's not wrong though. It's the thing.
No, I know. You know what? He did a great job. He did a great job. Kavi bought that marvelous elixir of what did it do again?
Apply 3 times, and the ladies will swoon, swole, swoon.
You got there.
25.
Good job.
So as you're all standing around and discussing Kavi's future rash ointment, the back door opens and Sajida walks in. She is the only other current employee of the shop. And she's also the only person who's been employed longer than Pratchya has been.
Okay.
Lately, though, she's taken a pay cut in order to let the store stay open longer, as far as like not later in the day, but actually we're not going out of business. And she's been moonlighting as an oracle, which is a little weird in Shelzar, with Enkili being the patron god of the city. A lot of people don't really brook with that kind of subject. They don't enjoy divination. They don't want to know what's happening, because when you know what's going to happen, Enkili will just find a way to change that for you. And so a lot of the times oracles are not well paid. It's not a good living, and sometimes they're open with like people will go and essentially egg their shop or whatever. But she's been essentially working some days and night shifts at a shop that's over in the poorer part of town. And she eyes that statue. Where did that come from?
It's one of our most recent acquisitions. Belky paid for it to get brought here.
How did you get it in the door?
Funny you asked that. It was that big, and now it's that big.
It is definitely that big. And as she like takes a few steps around it, the floor kind of groans a little, and she steps back. What are you gonna do with it?
Sell it and find out how to shrink it again.
Is this the one? What's that?
I didn't find a button, so magic?
Magic!
Yes. Oh, Jessamine, do you know some magic that could help, maybe?
Magic is the thing that makes things different than other things through sheer desire.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
I get the feeling you think.
What's up?
So we desire this to be small again.
Oh, I'm gonna pick up a vial. So,
Come on, Desmond.
3 times over the weekend, you must apply this ointment to reduce the size of the corn on your feet, and will soften the hardness of all of your pain. 25. Yes?
Pratchya, you know for sure that cream does not work, and you've seen some of the like weird little white pustules that have been on people's skin when they've come back. You are pretty sure you do not want to touch that to put it on the statue, just in case it might make the statue like shrink.
Okay.
So
You know what? Jessamine, do you want to just we own this inventory, so just put like a drop on it and see what happens.
Perfectly harmless. See, Desm, show demon strafe, demon strafe. The wondrous power of this ointment to reduce smaller bunions on the feet.
Yes, Sessom. Why don't you show us by applying it to yourself?
Desmond will show you the miraculous power of Dr. Zagini's reduction ointment cream. Yes. Desmond will proceed to apply this salve to his foot.
Yeah, and he just like slathers it on there, and Pratchya, you're waiting for it, and nothing happens. Like, one, he doesn't shrink, obviously, but two, no boils, no pus, no weird reaction.
See, no pustules, no marks on Desmond's feet. No, see, their big reduction.
How often do you use this stuff?
Desmond uses always, because Desmond believes in health and harmony. The harmony of all elements together in this cream makes us all unified forever.
Okay.
25 gold. Only 25 gold. And if by now, including the salve for alluring dragon repellent.
Dragon repellent. I have one thing to say to that. Nay! Which is also what I say when all the unhappy customers come in expecting a refund.
We'll go and investigate this the statue, though, because apparently the statue requires some ointment. I think that's what they want. I'm not entirely sure, but I really want to satisfy my customers / friends. So I'm going to go poke at this statue, ointment in hand.
As you slather it onto the statue, Desm feels pretty sure this is going to work. Like, obviously, you've been putting it on your body, and you feel great.
I don't have any boils. I'm fine.
And you stand back, and you even raise your hands, because you're like, ta-da! And nothing happens. However, there's a weird minty feeling, or like minty cream, and almost like, like when you know what Vicks is? Does everyone know what Vicks Vapor Rub is? That like is kind of just wafting off of the statue, and your eyes are watering a little bit, but it definitely does not shrink.
So fresh, so new, so young, bright eyes.
We deserve this.
Yeah. Yep, we do. All right. Well, none of you can shrink statues, right?
Pretty sure I can.
Okay.
What do you mean,
Did
pretty sure?
Well, I've never tried to shrink a statue.
Well, have you ever had a statue to shrink before?
I haven't, so I can't say I definitely can't, but...
Well, why not try? And we've all acted like idiots so far. You can join us. Be part of the team.
All right, so I'm gonna walk around the statue looking for
Normally, I would hire outs for this, but we can't really afford that right now. So
we're the best help that free can buy.
yes, we are.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I guess, look around the statue again. I know we've looked for a button already.
Yeah. So Free, do a perception check. 12.
That's 12. Yeah.
So now that the statue is glistening and everything, you definitely can see the pockmarks on it more clearly, but nothing seems to be different about it. Like none of the old engravings have changed. There's no button on it. No, it looks like it's a giant statue.
Okay, so I'll put my hand on one of the engraving and say small.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make me a con save.
God damn it. Let's see. Saving throw.
Nice.
Think I'm dead, y'all.
So as you touch it, like your hands on it, and like you feel that weird coldness kind of spread to your palm,
Right.
and then you take your hand away, and you realize that gook that Decim rubbed on it is all over your hand, and so there's this weird like cold sensation. And even though you don't have like skin like everyone
Right.
else, you notice these weird like little bumps show up.
We
on
really
you.
should not be selling this. This is.
Yes, we should sell this.
You know what? We should. I'm gonna just wipe it on the floor or somewhere. And
Even good for cleaning floors. People who live at home who have families must have clean homes. Use this ointment for many days. Buy now.
is the floor still creaking? Like the statue is still growing? Is that a thing?
Every so often, as you're walking around it, it definitely groans as the timbers that are holding up the floor shift a little.
All right. Sujita, do you have any suggestions? Do you know anybody potentially that we can get at a cheap price to shrink the statue?
She kind of looks at it for a moment, and she says, "Well, doesn't Nasby Jabber collect these?" And he's the guy who had Belky go find it.
Yes, he does. He says he's no longer interested in it though. So.
Well, that's strange. Did he say why?
No, he didn't.
Well, at least Belky had him pay 50% up front, right? That deposit?
No.
Sounds like a field trip.
I mean, we could go visit him maybe and try to convince him.
You could. Did he come down in person, or did he send a runner?
I believe he sent a runner?
Yeah, he sent a runner.
Yeah, he sent a runner.
That's strange. He's usually so much more forthright.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. He's a great customer in the past. I don't know why he wouldn't want something as magnificent as this.
You get the feeling in the old days it was pretty awesome. Now it's, kind of a lump of rock.
Do you think he knew what he was ordering when he got this, or when we got this delivered, or?
I mean, if he collects, Sajid says he collects these, so I assume that he knows that he was ordering it, and what it is, and when it was generally arriving.
But if nothing else, he probably also knows how to stop this from doing whatever it's doing. Like, he knows where the magic button is.
That's a great point. We should absolutely ask him how it works, if nothing else.
Magic button?
All these things have a magic button somewhere, right? It's like behind the big toe or... Yeah.
It could be an incantation. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pop on some like actual clothes, not just like potato sack anymore, and let's take a field trip.
Yeah? Is that what everyone wants to do?
Does everybody else want to do that, or should we stay here and continue looking at it? Maybe.
Is there any chance that we can reinforce what's up under this floor?
That's a good point.
Yeah, you could go down and check for sure.
Oh,
Being
yeah.
that you're a little newer here, Braca, you've been in the cellar before, but there's not really a lot of reason to go down there. In the last couple of weeks, you have gone down there a couple of times with everyone else as you're carrying down furniture that, like essentially shelves that were holding things, but as the inventory of the store has essentially ran out, rather than having a store full of empty shelves, you've been moving the empty stuff down so it looks like you actually have something of an inventory. But you're essentially just kind of like taking them and putting them right inside the cellar. So you could go down and go deeper into it for sure.
Yeah, because what I want to do is see if there's enough objects or something where we can just stack it to the ceilings to possibly get, essentially building a pillar to give a little more support in case the statue just crashes down while we're outside.
So you walk out the back of the shop, and behind the shop is this large courtyard that you share with the other businesses that are around. There are a couple of people walking around, but they don't really pay you any mind. And then you turn, and next to the building is the cellar entrance. And so you pull back those doors and you go down, and it's very dark down there, and no lanterns were installed down there.
Okay.
Do you want to... I don't think you can see in the dark, is that correct?
I have 30-foot dark vision.
Oh, do you? Then you would not have planned ahead to bring a torch because you don't need one. Or a lantern. So you head in and you kind of squeeze between the furniture that you've moved down there, and you walk back under. Essentially, like, imagine that this was some kind of weird, probably a waterway at one time that carved out. And so it kind of winds around, and it's not the entire width of the building, but you look up and you do see a little bit of sunlight filtering in between the wood beams that are holding the tiles up. And as you're standing there, there's like this little groan and some dust filters down. You don't see anything in the room to shore it up with. But then as you're like thinking about it, there's all of the crates that are out back that essentially were just holding Dr. Zagini's magical cures. You could try stacking those under it.
Yeah, why don't we see if we can give a little support here real quick. If it seems like it's viable, it'd be better than nothing.
Sure. So you stack them up, and they get pretty much right underneath. It's hard to get it. You don't have anything enough to make it, like, flush with the beam above you, but you feel like if it were to crack and collapse, it might put in some extra support for it.
All right.
While he's doing that, what are the rest of you doing?
Say again?
Oh, anything trigger with the reference to magic button?
Nothing has changed or triggered.
Knowledge Arcana?
Sure.
Magic.
Got a 14. So you don't know anything that's magical about these statues. There's a little bit of lore that you think about while you're standing there, and essentially these are carved out to be... They're kind of like weird demonic or gargoyle-ish looking djinns.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know of anything.
On it?
What's that?
Is there any writing on it?
There are some symbols that are around the bottom, but they're so far wasted off that you can't tell what they said. You do speak primordial, is that correct?
No, I can read primordial script, but
Okay. So yeah, you look at them and you get the feeling it was probably in primordial. Like the shapes of the symbols look familiar, but they're not. They're not anything you recognize as words.
Mm.
What are
That sounds
Pratchya?
okay. I'm watching Decim, and I'm actually going to start looking around the curiosity cache itself to see if there are any items here that could help other than this wondrous cream that's currently stinking up the shop.
Right. Yeah, looking at what's left, I mean, you're pretty low on your inventory. In fact, it's gotten to the point where down. You see where I'm pinging here with this table with the 2 chairs.
Yeah.
So that's actually like a for sale item that you guys have taken over and you're playing this game on. This over here is a winged sphinx-looking creature.
Mm-hmm.
An adventurer group brought it in and Belky bought it, but it wasn't like a special request from anyone. There's this strange finned person statue over here that was fished out of it was actually like caught in a fisherman's net off the beach, and they dove down and brought it up and brought it to Belky, who kind of the same thing. He ended up paying them for it. There's this large vase that depicts I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Sorry. Deneb,
okay.
the Earth Mother. So the one Titan who joined the gods against the other Titans during the Divine War. This one depicts her. There's not a lot of Deneb worship down here, so it's not strange that it's still sitting here. There is a sextant sitting here.
Okay.
This was it was brought in by a adventuring group that said that they killed some weird demon, and Belky ended up buying into it, and then later on got it appraised just to find out it's not even a real skull. It's like fabricated. And then there's some little books over here next to that skull with a small statue holding them up, and essentially those are just old fairy tale type books, old chapbooks.
Okay.
There's what looks like a wand over here that doesn't seem to do anything.
Oh.
There's a little bowl here that's supposed to be for ceremonies, but it has some markings on it that no one's been able to identify, and so no one's like really willing to take this strange bowl home. And then there's this chest. The chest is like probably the most interesting object in here, as it holds more than it shows, but currently it is empty. It doesn't have anything to help you out with the statue issue. Oh, and then in the bottom right corner, there's this torture device that was once supposedly used by an ancient sultan of Shelzar.
Mm-hmm. All right. In that case, I'm gonna go over to the chest.
Okay.
How much is more than it should? Like,
you figured it holds about twice as much as
a
chest would. Like,
okay.
Somehow, it's larger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yeah.
But it's not like a bag of holding.
Yeah. All right.
And therefore, it's a curiosity and not something amazing.
All right. Well, In that case, I'm gonna take a look at the statue myself.
Okay.
And see if there's actually anything, anything I can poke with. I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that cream. I've seen what it does. I'm gonna use instead the hilt of my dagger because I don't want to. I also don't want to accidentally damage it. We paid, I assume, a decent amount for this thing.
Yeah. The adventurers made a handsome amount on it.
Yep. So I'm going to kind of poke at it with the hilt of my dagger very gently, and see if I can find anything that might, tell me how to turn it off or on, or I don't know what happened.
So as you poke around, nothing changes. You don't really notice anything that's strange about it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to. Can I make an Arcana check? Actually.
Sure.
Like unskilled. Okay. I think. Hey.
We'll go with the first one. You really don't know anything. You don't even know much about the source of them as far as what it depicts. It just looks like a weird, big, strange demon thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I've had ideas. Anybody else got any?
What do you want to happen with this thing?
I want it to get small.
How small?
Like, as small as it was before. So like a foot?
Like this small?
A little bit bigger.
Desm knows who can make things small for maybe some coins.
Oh, well, I'm out of options, so and I imagine it's probably going to cost more to fix the shop. So where is this miraculous person that makes things small?
Anyone who plays the lute would know how to do things that are difficult to sell. Yes, sometimes. Lute players, they have many good ideas about merchandise.
Okay. Do you have a lute player friend?
Yes.
Okay. Where is your lute player friend?
Desm does not know. But they were with Desm.
Okay.
A while ago.
Okay. How long?
Desm has seen the sunrise many times since the last time Desm saw the lute players. Play
okay.
lute.
Okay.
But Desm knows that other people who play the lutes know many things about many things.
Okay. Well, if we can maybe find a lute player at the Plentiful Cup.
Potentially possible.
Across the street.
You've definitely heard music over there before.
Yeah.
Usually later in the day. Right now, it's still morning, and so they're serving breakfast and everyone's waking up, and they don't have any early entertainment for their customers.
Right.
Okay.
And
we
while
can try
you're
that
having this
later.
conversation, and when Decim brings up paying someone to do it, I already forgot my NPC's name. I apologize.
Is it Sajida?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
I have so
I
many
wrote it
names.
down.
Good job. Inspiration for you. She, you definitely catch her looking at you, and she gives you this like knowing look, because she also has access to the books, and so she kind of knows what kind of dire straits the store is in. And you just subtly get her like shaking her head like, I don't think so, but you never know.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Like maybe you can find one that would do it for trade or something, but you get the feeling from her that there is not enough money
Yeah,
to pay for that
probably.
service left.
yeah. So it's probably Decim's friend or nothing.
You could definitely go looking for him.
All right. Well, Decim, you don't know where your friend is, but we don't
Desm
really
has
have
many
any-
friends.
What?
Desm has many friends. Everyone is a friend to Desm.
That's good. That's a great outlook on life. I don't have that outlook, but I'm glad you do.
You could.
Yes. So we don't have enough money to pay for the service. We're currently getting somebody shoring up the floorboards. I mean, if we shore up the floorboards, it's probably gonna be okay, right? No?
It'll be fun.
What does everybody think?
I think if we shore up the floorboards, it would be better than if we don't. And then we're on a ticking time clock because at some point, the floorboards are going to give up.
Okay. Well,
Do I
we
have?
can go to. Oh, go ahead. Go.
I was just gonna add. Do I have any sense of how much more time I would have bought for us?
Not really. You could go ahead and do do an intelligence check.
Do a what? Sorry, do a what?
No.
Just do a straight intelligence check.
Check? This will go well.
I mean, you're pretty sure that pillar will hold that thing indefinitely.
Yes.
Yep. So I go running back. I'm like, I got it. I got it.
As my dog
That's
barks,
awesome.
and then we have to roll, and something bad happens.
The floor's gonna collapse.
Now I'm gonna have to like sit here and come up with ways to make her bark so we can do that. So several hours pass. A few people come in and kind of look around. Once they see the sign that's above the shelf that says, you know, Dr. Zaghini's ointments and cure-alls, they kind of look at everyone like, oh my gosh, I know someone who used one of those, and leave. A couple people come in and look at the strange torture device that's down in the corner.
Uh-huh. I'm sure it's in great working order. You should purchase it.
We'll let fate decide that one. Go ahead and roll a persuasion check.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Not my strong suit. Let's see. Persuasion. I gotta get down there. There we go. Oh. Don't want that. Here we go. Persuasion. Cool.
That's not
Great.
bad.
Nice.
That's not too bad.
So, as you're talking to this person, that's a gentleman that's actually dressed fairly well. Seems weird that this person would be looking at a torture device, but he seems fairly interested in it, and he says, well, Summer Festival is coming up soon. Sure, I'll buy one.
Yeah, might as well. Special occasions deserve special things like this. Um,
And you end up being able to sell it to him for 100 Uda, which is gold.
Nice.
Nice.
great at my job.
Oh, and I made it part of the map, so not thinking anyone was going to buy it. I will have that gone. Someone's going to come and get it for him later. He can't carry it out by himself.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. He needs to get like a cart or something for it.
Yep.
So as the afternoon wears on, you begin hearing music coming from the Plentiful Cup across the street.
Okay. Well, I do have 100 gold. But if I hire them, I'll have like no gold. But then the shop won't be broken. I need a employee meeting.
Campfire.
Right? Hey, the floor's going to hold for a long time, so you don't have to worry about it.
Even so, let's all gather around and make a decision. We can either get a lute player from across the way to potentially help us with our demon in the room, or we can leave it as it is for now because it does make a show-stopping piece, don't you think?
This is true.
Thoughts? Opinions?
We should probably at least talk to one of these loot players in case we need to get rid of it at some point.
Yeah.
Like the secrets.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In that case, we should go check the Plentiful Cup.
You cut out a little bit there at the end. What did you say?
Oh, I said we should go check the Plentiful Cup.
Okay.
If that's the case, we should keep somebody in the shop, Sajida.
She is more than happy to do so, although she does have to leave in about an hour to head off to her other job.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll make sure it lasts less than an hour.
Okay. So as you stroll across the street, I mean, the street's only about 20 feet across. You notice a Vertigen man standing there. A Vertigen is they look kind of like elves, but their ears are even longer, and they have this weird scintillating skin that kind of shifts between whatever their base color is and like a similar color. They have very large black eyes, which are kind of disorienting to look at. His name is Hiovu, and you actually know him as the owner of the Plentiful Cup, although he doesn't really tell many people that because Vertigen are a little untrusted, and so he just kind of comes down and hangs out every so often, but no one actually knows he works there, although you guys do because you were friends with him. And so he waves at you as you head over, and he points at your open doors, and you look back and you can see that statue just glaring at you. Where'd that come from?
Well, funny story. It's a very long story, but suffice to say that it wound up in our shop this morning from some visitors, and it was a lot smaller before, and we want to get it back to small as opposed to large. If you know anybody, let us know.
I might. I would have to put some feelers out to see if they're available.
The lower the price, the better as well.
He nods knowingly. You get the feeling he's around enough that he knows that the shop is in dire straits.
Yeah.
He says he'll stop by in the morning if he can find a way to shrink it down.
Okay.
He just kind of whistles to himself and strolls off down the street.
Okay, well that might have solved that. Should we still go to the Plentiful Cup, guys?
Yes. The cup has many dishes that we can enjoy with our hands and our mouths.
And as he's talking, he still has that goop on his hands.
He's licking the goop off too. He's totally, like, super into it.
You're gonna have really minty breath.
Oh yeah, it's for health and pleasure, long life and enjoyment.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So as you walk into the Plentiful Cup, you do notice a small group of bards playing their instruments fairly well. You've never known the establishment to have bad bards. But this isn't like a band you would go see all the time. But Pratchya, you do notice that fellow that was eyeing you earlier, he's like set up in the corner, and as soon as you walk in the door, you feel his eyes on you. Like,
Cool.
just creeping. And
Okay,
with
I'm good.
that, we hit our 2-hour mark for our first episode.
All right, yeah.
And so we'll call it good.
Well done us.
Yay!
Thank you.
Before we go, just so, because we didn't do this during introductions, Katie, is there anywhere on the internet that you want people to find you?
Oh, I have a writer page on Facebook that I regularly update with all the projects I'm doing. It's Katie Griffin Writer. Or you can check out my company website, which is www.mostimprobable.com. Either of those places are fine. I'm not really active on Twitter.
Cool. Noah, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Noah Grand, and the best way to find me is at Noah Grand on Twitter.
Nice. And you are also on DM's Guild, is that correct?
Yep.
And so if people...
On DM's Guild, a couple adventures there now. Some more things will be coming out. I'm not 100% sure what the timeline is on that.
That's the way of things.
Yep.
And they can just search for your name and all of your stuff comes up, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Chaz, how about you?
Don't really have an online presence. I have a Twitter. I definitely have a Twitter. I've never used it. But once I start using it, I will put it out there.
Awesome. And John?
I am on Instagram. Distillosaurus Rex is my handle. All things Ireland and whiskey.
Yay! Awesome. So we will be back next Friday at the same time. It's 4:30 Eastern. I can't think of anything else to say. Thanks to Astral for sponsoring this episode, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.